Travel and Things in association with Sun Destinations, iconic destinations with amazing experiences, present In Conversation With. I am your host, David Batsoffen, and today my guest is all the way from Bundox River Lodge, the owner of that lodge. It's Marinus Smith. Marinus, good morning. Welcome to you.
Good morning, everyone.
Bundox River Lodge. It's probably one of the first lodges I've ever stayed at where two things happened. A, the animals came to me, and B, the river in front of the lodge seems to flow forever. You're not going to arrive there and find a dry riverbed. It's the Olifants River, and it flows all year round.
Yes, yeah, we're very fortunate. There's a section of the river from the Blyde Dam downwards to Palaborwa, where they have to release water, which is always permanent water. I would say it's the most constant water source flowing into Kruger for sure.
All right, so let's talk through Bundox River Lodge, because this particular image of the swimming pool, which is probably the bluest pool I've ever seen at any lodge I've visited, doesn't give much away about the lodge itself. So before we go into those images, tell us a bit about the history of Bundox River Lodge.
Okay, let me just take my hat off here. So maybe we must just understand the area is the most northern area of Balule,
right?
Which only come into the greater Kruger. This area, Balule has been open with Kruger for a long time, but this area has been only opened due to long-term negotiations to open it in 2018. So it's the latest area that came into Balule.
Okay.
And then we were fortunate enough to got it as a concession. So Bundox got it as a concession. Then we have to, you go through all the legal stuff, etc., to then you can only use an existing site next to the river, which is quite good. They won't issue any new sites. So we had an existing footprint that we had to work from. So where you stand, where you actually stand overlooking this beautiful swimming pool of us, was an old slaughterhouse. So the office became an old slaughterhouse. It was slaughterhouse for buffalo. They used to hunt buffaloes before it was open to Kruger.
Oh, wow.
So this was very nice that we could play so it was very nice that we could play a role in the change over from, they started with cattle, Thai cattle, it didn't work. And then it went on to buffalo hunting, but the properties were not so financially sustainable by that. And now it's over to ecotourism, and that's when Bundox got the contract. We've got a 30-year, what we say, concession.
Okay.
Right. And we fight it for long term. And the thing is, if you fight for long term, you can build a proper camp. The longer your term is, and we've learned that in Botswana, the longer the term is for concession, the more you can invest. So this was the idea about this camp. We would, because the location is so fantastic, we've got this permanent river. You overlook the other bank. You can actually see the other bank there. It's called Impala Plains. There is constant game there. You don't even have to leave the lodge. So that's why we built and designed it. So from the swimming pool, every deck, we'll probably go through some pictures, is a view over nature. You don't even have to leave the area to look at wildlife. Hence the pool is exactly positioned that you can lay in the pool and look, you will see game all the day there.
All right, now the differential of this camp from others, and you notice at the moment you step out of the office, is that it's a luxury tented camp. Now, I've stayed at lots of, in inverted commas, luxury tented camps, but you guys have taken this to the next level. The only comparison to a tent that I could make is the fact that these are out of canvas. After that, you forget that you're in a tent, because they are spectacular. They really and truly are. This is the first view that arriving visitors will arriving guests will have, and they will have no idea what lies behind this until they walk through the door.
Yes. So we faced the tents what they called landscape. So you don't walk under the arch of the tent. So what we've done, we turned the tents sideways, which is called landscape. So from the dining to the tents, everything is landscape to give the guest a better experience on the view in front. So that's number one. Number two, we took our knowledge that we have building camps in Botswana, where you are under strict rules on the IUCN, etc., etc., to have the lightest footprint that's sustainable that you can take away. And on top of that, you know, we've built high rise. So you'll see there's poles going up, not just steel beams. And that gives you the ability to raise the roof of the tent. Now you can walk in from, let's say, the side or out to the front of the tent, which makes the tent much more comfortable, number one. Number two, it feels much more spacious. It is much more spacious because you actually lift your whole tent quite a bit higher than what would people see as a normal tent. So it becomes a lodge per se, not a tented camp, you know. So and most of this tent, the canvas work, believe it or not, was done on this exact deck where you sit there. We've built all the roofs, everything. There's a lady in town here, she came with a little machine and we made the roof. So all of that was made right there on that deck.
You see, people, this is what people don't realize. And also, you know, the usual tent flaps you don't have, because if you look there, you don't have to bend down to get into the space. You walk into the space like it's a room anywhere else, in your home, for instance.
Yes, so the whole camp is custom made. So all the tents is custom made. So that's also what makes it a bit unique. You won't find a camp like this anywhere else.
Right. Was there anything in retrospect, Marinus, now that you sort of look back and the camp has settled in nicely, or it's beginning to settle in, because I think, if I remember correctly, the camp was only open to the public in March of 2023, so it's a relatively new camp. Is there anything in retrospect that you would have liked to have done differently, or that you are already thinking about changing?
No, there's nothing, absolutely nothing. There is one thing, but it's not on the tents, so that we would the whole camp is fully solar except the gas geysers, which in time, and that was a costing thing, the proper solar geysers is quite expensive.
They are indeed.
But you know, that's something we will phase out, and that will be the last, like, really eco green thing that we would want to add, is fully solar geysers. But on the layout and the camp and how the camp is working, we won't change anything. There is, however, plans to build a 6 tent. So we are allowed to build 6 tents. But the problem is, if you go over to a 6 tent, then it's 2 vehicles, almost everything doubles up. So we've opened it up like this, and kept the honeymoon suite. Every tent here is about a honeymoon suite, but we kept the proper honeymoon suite. Probably, hopefully, at the end of this year, we will add that.
Okay, cool. Now, attached to, or the extension of that lounge area that we saw, is this dining room bar, and there's also in the background a coffee station. What I like about the way you've laid out the dining room is the fact that everybody in this camp will sit together and eat. Because I believe that these sort of holidays, unlike a hotel holiday, where you never see the other guests unless you bump into them in the elevator, here you all can sit together, you can chat about what you've seen, what you want to see, how you've enjoyed your time so far. I think it makes for a much nicer and immersive experience for the guests.
Yes, so the idea was, because it's not a big camp, so the public area, which this is one of it, gives time to interact with other people. You know, there's very limited signal and all of that, so people then connect with each other. However, there are these different spaces where if somebody wants to be private, they can just either sit there or there. And also the tents are very far and spacious from the main area. So the main area was designed more on a social get together. What did you see? Oh, we took a picture of this, etc., etc. To connect people a little bit more, you know, and it really works. We've seen people here, and the nice thing, you know, you can't see the back, but if you see the back of this picture, you see the river and the bank. So there's game always. You always see the game while sitting and eating, and that's a highlight. You know, that really works well. The decks are very high elevated from the ground, which give you a nice view. Like you can look over the water and see a giraffe like that, you know, under the tree.
Well, this just caught my attention.
Point. It really works.
It does indeed. And even you went wow when you saw this picture, because I don't think you've seen this one before. So the giraffe we found on the way in, when Chris and I drove in, and the giraffe on the right is on a table in the lounge area. And I couldn't, the moment I saw it, I knew I had to put the two of them together. Maybe it'll give your future guests something to look for. They can go and find a giraffe in this position, put their two pictures together and post it into you.
Yeah, no, very well done. We really like this. And the area has quite a lot of big trees. And even behind the giraffe, what's so unique about this area, like behind the giraffe, you can see there's koppies. So there's very, very, very little concessions in Kruger that has these koppies. But these koppies and around it is normally bigger trees. So we have quite a high population of giraffes. Hence the little giraffe there in the camp as well, you know.
And why not?
Which is nice, because everybody wants to see a giraffe. Yeah.
There's something about the giraffe, and the more I see them, the more intrigued I become. Because when you're looking at something that's 18 foot tall, and that could almost be from the dinosaur era, then you realize why people want to see them. I've been in vehicles where people have said to the guide, drive away from a line sighting because I see there's giraffe and zebra in the distance, and they'd rather sit and watch giraffe.
Yes, I couldn't remember the guy's name who did a survey. He did a proper survey on what people really wanted to see. And if I'm correct, it's elephant, lion, giraffe. So that's the demand. It's really not the big five. So the general people, the serious safari goer, he wants to see the big five and a kill and all of that. But in general, especially families, small groups, a lot of family groups book the whole camp because it's so small and intimate. And when those families come, we see that the giraffe is actually very high on the list.
You know what I like doing, Marinus, is when you go out on a game walk, if you come upon giraffe, you must let them notice you. And the moment they've noticed you, you sit down. And they're very curious because they've seen you and now you disappear. And they'll often walk a little closer just to come and see who you are and what you're doing in their territory before they wander off. They don't have a huge attention span, but they will come towards you with a very inquisitive look on their face.
Yeah, they're very curious, like you said. So they would rather come and investigate slowly if they're uncertain about who you are. So which is nice.
Going back to the pool area, this is looking at the pool from the lounge. Just a slightly different aspect. Up there on the sort of little rise is the office where you arrive and do all the paperwork, which signs your life away. If you get eaten by something with teeth and claws, it's not your problem. It's the guest's problem. And then this path. Do you have somebody special in camp that does nothing else but make sure that every stone on this particular path, Marinus, is absolutely perfect?
Yes, we run small teams, and the whole team is involved. So like when there's off time, there's a day that there's no one, that we like to encourage the team. Like even a chef will help and do this. But yes, there is a specific guy in camp, and his duty is maintenance and looking after the boma and the pool And you can just see he is doing a fantastic job. This guy is excellent. He actually, we founded him. He helped build the camp. We founded him. He was allowed to come into the area, and because his brother is also working in the area. So that's how he got the job, by actually building the camp. And this guy was so good. We've asked him, because he knows where every pipe is, where everything is, where every tap is. So we asked him to, we like to empower our own people, or people that we see that really wants to be there. And you can see there, he's just doing a fantastic job.
It is indeed. Now, this was the tent that I stayed in, tent number 1, which is right at the end of the property, away from everybody else, but still close enough to wander back and forth and not have to sort of hide in the tent. The first thing that I realized, but I think it was only after I left that I realized it, is that, again, no tent flaps. They're doors that slide open, which means that you can step into the tent without ducking your head or having to bend down to undo zips. Which can be a bit of a nuisance if you're old and your back is playing up, type of thing. But you've really thought this through in every aspect of the accommodation, of the public spaces. So I doff my proverbial hat to you and your team for putting this camp together, Marinus.
No, thank you. Yeah, so like I said, you just in the corner of the picture, you can see a pole going up. So you see that's to lift the whole roof of the tent. That's why you must make the whole tent custom made, so that in order you can accommodate a normal size door. But these are not, you can't buy a door like this. So we made these doors on site,
right,
so with the gauze. And the whole idea is, you see the landscape, that's the bathroom in the back and all the things. You can keep your whole tent open, even sleeping. 90% of people just keep it open, and because the view, they overlook that same Impala plains over the river.
Yeah.
But yes, and if the river or the weather goes bad, you just roll your flaps down. You can even do it yourself. That's how easy it is.
Yeah, they are
then
indeed.
We built the doors on sliders that you can open it yourself.
This is the look at the bedroom. We'll go into the bathroom in a moment. And as you say, this bed overlooks the little deck that we saw a moment ago. And then it also looks out over the Olifants River. And the interesting thing is, the one afternoon that I was in camp, it was pouring with rain. And I said to Chris, I don't want to go and watch wet Impala watching me watching them. So I sat on my deck, and I was very lucky because a breeding herd of about 35 ellies, I'd seen them cross slightly upriver from me. And I was just hoping that they would stop in front of my tent, which is exactly what they did. And I sat and watched them for probably an hour while they just played and did what elephants did, not even realizing I was sitting and watching them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's the idea about this camp. You can just sit, you can actually lay in your bed. So the headboard there, with this cushion on the back of the headboard, is so that you can lay up or sit up in your bed, look throughout your door, and you'll see game.
Yeah.
If you take a shower where you are now, the whole shower opens up, that you can shower and overlook at the same, very privately, but overlook the same riverbed. This one, there's a, you can't choose all of that, but some others you can have a bit of a better view. But if you're under the shower, you can actually see wildlife while you are showering. And that was the idea of having inside-outside shower.
Yeah. The interesting thing for me about this shower,
I don't know if you want to jump back. Yes.
Yeah, you were going to say?
If you jump back to the, so just a point of note. So what we did, because this whole camp is under a canopy of trees with lots of plants, etc., etc. So all the decor there, you see this plant based on the cushion. So we used a plant based theme for all the decor throughout, because you are in this, canopy and the lights. Is it a bird nest? Is it a plant that's hanging there? Was custom made by a lady in town. So we used a lot of local influence, to
That's
help
wonderful.
create
It's really,
the look and feel.
Yeah, makes my heart warm.
Yes. This color scheme was actually. This color scheme was actually my wife's choice, tent number 1, which got the most votes for the favorite tent anyway.
Well,
so
Tell,
that you
tell her
know.
she can add my vote to that as well. I'm just glad you're using locally sourced, Marinus, because I hate turning over cushion covers and find saying made in Taiwan or made in China or any one of those, because we have the capabilities, we have the knowledge, and we certainly have the creativity here in South Africa to make all of this stuff ourselves.
I'm very for community stuff. So all the furniture was made by local people. Everything. The furniture that we didn't do ourselves was made by local guys here. Even the solar system was applied by local guys, you know. So the whole camp and the idea is we really support local community.
Wonderful. Now, just getting back to the shower, because this fascinated me when I stepped into it, because most indoor showers have some sort of like fiberglass or plastic base, which is invariably white or tiled.
Yes.
And it sort of detracts from everything else in the accommodation. But what I was told is that you guys have secreted all of that under the floorboards here. So the water drains through the floor into that, and then that water is run off and used elsewhere.
Yes, so how it works, the water, yeah, you're quite correct. So the catchment basement is below the floor here, which every 5 or 6 years we'll have to change those pieces of decking, but it's such a nice feeling, you know, and you don't dip into a plastic fiberglass something and you slide, or it really works nice. So that was the aim, eco-friendly on that. So the water then joins the, we call it an STP plant, sewage treatment plant, and there's a whole, and it all gets catched because now we're right next to the river. So every 2 rooms have a basin, it gets caught up, and then it gets pumped to an underground sewage treatment plant, which you don't even see. I think it's the first underground STP plant in the whole of Kruger. We've learned this by building camps in Botswana, how to do this. So we were quite chuffed on our green ethos stick here. And then there's just second thing about why it feels so different, even from the room. So the fiber that you see there on the wall is especially gauze that's imported from Germany.
Right.
It's called see-through something. So you can't, when it's low light, you must almost touch the screen there to see, oh, but there's a screen actually here.
Indeed.
So it's a special gauze made from Kevlar. It's not your normal net shedding, you know. It's a special gauze that we imported to create that feeling of I'm actually in the open, you know.
Yeah. Now, talking about in the open, and you mentioned earlier you can see the river. So there's the bed, and there's the river, and that's where the Ellies were. So if I was really, really lazy, I didn't have to get out of bed. But the chairs on the deck, and it was just glorious. Had a cup of tea with me, some biscuits. What more can a person want?
Yeah, and also what we did here, all the tents, number one, they had to be raised above the 100-meter flat line, which wasn't so easy. But you can't really see it out of the tent here, but you know, you actually quite raised high in the air.
Yeah.
But that gave you a fantastic angle. So the people sit here. We're going to add some bean bags to the room soon, because the people say, no, they want to put the camera on that beam there. Because you're actually higher than the opposite bank, which makes photography fantastic. So
I know should I tell you that's exactly what I did. I took one of the cushions, put it on that balustrade.
Okay.
Rested my lens on that because I was using quite a big lens and it gets very heavy eventually. And then you can just relax because the camera is steady and you almost don't even have to look through the viewfinder because you know where it's set. And then you just, you know, enjoy and snap away.
The other day it was quite funny. One guest, I didn't know if he didn't feel well or wanted to sleep in, but he said, no, he's not going to go out on a game drive. And when the game drive got back, he sat it on his stoop and he took a photos of leopards on the other side and then Ellis and everyone else was jealous. So like we said, you don't even have to leave this camp, you know, which makes this camp very special.
Another thing that was in the bathroom, and it took me just a few seconds to actually spot them, is where the controls are for the shower, which are here. So you sort of wander around that shower area going, how do I turn this darn thing on and off? And then you notice those on the wall, which are within, you can stand under the shower and reach them, but sneakily placed in an unobtrusive area. And again, well done.
Thank you. Yeah, so the approach is minimalistic, we don't want too much funny stuff there, but it's very difficult to put those the taps on the canvas itself.
Yeah,
so the
I
back
should
of
imagine
the back of this whole thing is
yeah.
Yes, yeah. So you're kind of forced to put all your hardware onto that section, and what's actually nice, you open it and you don't get wet. You can open it and play with the controls until your water temperature is correct, and then you get into the shower, which also makes it nice, because normally those things are right under the shower, and then you have to jump away and wait for the hot water to come. So we thought about how to do that.
That's always an issue. I want to just hope, yeah, there we go. We're running out of time. This is the problem with Zoom, is you get involved and then time just vanishes. Marinus, tell us a bit. Do you have more plans for the camp, more plans for the area, putting in new camps perhaps, or different experiences for visiting guests?
Yes, so what is nice, because we've got so much Olifants River frontage, and downstream from us there's a boat which you can book and have a drive on the Olifants River. So that's fantastic experience. There's very little, I think it's the only boat cruises inside the park available.
Right.
So that's a nice experience that people normally do more and more out of this camp. But then we have extra what we call bed nights in hand, and later this year the plan to open a stargazing sleep out camp.
Wow.
So most people have a deck where two people can book and go and sleep. So this will be a very minimalistic, but it's specially designed stargazing tents built of that same gauze that we used at the showers. So the plan is the idea is there's fantastic stargazing opportunities in this concession because of the mountains, and you can be a bit elevated and have a fantastic view facing south. So we're busy making a road to this place, and then we're gonna play with it. But the idea is not that the two people in your camp have the privilege to go at the stargazing camp.
Everybody.
So a group, everybody. Well, it will be 8. 4 tents. 8 people can go. They can book it, pre-arrange it. Normally what we'll do is if somebody book 3 days, we'll block those 3 days for them, because you don't know how the weather's going to be. But they'll have the opportunity then, inclusive in the package, to go to do the sleep out, which we'll probably walk to. But we're also bringing in a special stargazing scope. And Jan Bester, who's running our marketing team, he's a stargazing fundi. He's busy training the guides. And then we're going to have proper stargazing sessions in the stargazing camp. So that's on the horizon for us, and that's we're really hoping we can pull it off this year, if not definitely next year. But we hopefully open it by August this year, that we can put a few people through a stargazing experience.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. The only thing we haven't touched on, and I think we've still got a few minutes so we can touch on it now, is the quality and the quantity of the food that you supply to your guests. I'm always in awe of a chef that can produce almost urban quality restaurant food in the middle of the bush, where your nearest supermarket is probably an hour's drive away.
Yeah, I think Simanga, could you remember, was it little Simanga, a small guy?
No. But doesn't matter. Yeah, you were going to say.
Sure, but he's the head chef there. He was trained in a community chef school, something, and then we do internships. So we went to our main lodge first for 2 years. Wow. And then we started to use him as a chef, a relieving chef in the fancier camps like this. And then we saw that he's really doing good. So we helped him with training, and there he is. I mean, he's a shining star coming out of the community, and that's what we like to do, you know, and support. And, you know, there's not a single complaint about his food. Never, ever, ever. It's just smack on every time. Making, even plating, like you said, you know, it's fantastic, but making something out of nothing sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, plating is important because food is sort of 50-50, taste and visual. I mean, if you put really nice food and just throw it on a plate that doesn't look good, your immediate reaction is, no, I don't want to eat this. Doesn't matter how nice it tastes once you do. But if it attracts you visually, and his food did, then the only problem is you want to raise your hand and say, well, in this case, there was enough, to not have to say, please, could I have some more? In this case, it was, I've had more than enough. Don't offer me any more until the next meal, because you guys do 3 meals a day.
Yeah, we do full on 3 meals a day.
Yeah. So, and there's not enough walking space. People must eat slowly and pace yourselves, because otherwise, if you get there on day one and your gear fits you, by the end of your visit, your shirts and shorts are not going to fit the same way.
Yeah, we like it that way.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. It was glorious being in your camp. I look forward to the stargazing one, because I'd like to return for that. Hint, hint. But for people who want to find out more about your camp, I know that Bundox is one of Sun Destinations properties, so they can book through Sun Destinations through their website, and a variety of other different platforms, I should imagine.
Yes, yeah, no, they can just phone the Sun Destinations office. They'll help them, you know, any itinerary in the area, what they want to do, special requirements, anything, they can just give us a shout, and we'll help them. And thanks for your great work, David. And we're looking forward, when we open that stargazing camp, we will definitely invite you. And then we see to open the first proper stargazing experience in the Greater Kruger.
It sounds fantastic. Marinus Smith, who's the owner of Bundox River Lodge and associated lodges, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining me on In Conversation With.
Thank you, David. Looking forward to host you again soon.